This is the bait ambush. This is the most difficult of the three to employ consistently because it involves multiple different variables that can change from match to match. So it is a bit of an impromptu as well, but with much more planning and skill involved. Some of these variables include, but aren't limited to, the utilities and loadouts of your team, the location you're in, the AI of the location you're in, and your team's skill level of anticipating enemy movement throughout the world. I'll break down an example of one now. Let's say you and your team just got to your first clue over here at Stillwater Bend on the Stillwater Bayou map. Once you got your first clue, the map grayed out like this. Since the map grays out the same for all players in the world, you can use this to try and predict your enemy's movement. If you're good enough at this, you can beat your enemies to the predicted location and bait them into a perfect and usually unstoppable ambush. For example purposes, let's say you heard or saw crows coming from the chapel of Madonna Noir. Because of how the map grayed out, you can anticipate which direction the enemy players will move in to find their next clue. Because there's no more possible clues in the top right corner of the map and the top left is a completely different bounty target, you can infer that the enemies are probably moving down the map towards Stillwater Bend or the Healing Waters Church for their next clue. Since you and your team have the advantage of already being there and already having the first clue, this is a prime time to set up a bait ambush. There are so many different ways to actually bait the enemies into an ambush, but with this example, the bait is simply just the location that you're assuming that they will be heading towards next. If you beat them there, you can set up traps in key locations, post up in strategic vantage points, and have a well thought out and thoroughly communicated plan with your team. Remember earlier how I said I'd talk about the tactics for when the enemies are moving towards you? Well, let's get into that now. Once you have your ambush set and everyone's in position, when the enemies are moving towards you, you want to have patience and wait for all of the enemies to enter the red zone or the hotspot. This is ideally a location where there's very little cover, like an open field or while they're wading through waist-high water. This is also where not just one, but every member of your team should have a line of sight on the entire enemy team and can effectively wipe them out in a matter of seconds. I'm sure you guys have been hit once or twice by an ambush like this before in your illustrious hunt careers. You're just strolling along, BSing with the boys about who had the biggest turd this morning, and boom, shotgun to the face, dynamite up your buddy's ass, and then you got a 3v1 on your last teammate who just bought the game and is definitely gonna uninstall after this.
The entry barrier for this game is
Hard.
insanely high. This doesn't pass the family video test. If I pick this shit up for 5 nights for family video, dude, I'm turning that shit back. I'm never gonna play it again.
And finally, we're moving on to number 5. But before we get into it, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, what are you doing? Have a heart. Hit subscribe so I could feed my family. All right, now on to number 5. How to...